In today's episode of Shocking, we uncover the unbelievable story of triplets Bobby Sharon, Eddie Galland and David Kellman, who were separated at birth only to be reunited again at the age of 19 years old by pure coincidence. Who were separated at birth and adopted by separate families, and then were placed into the hands of the Louise Wise Adoption Services. The brothers had been selected to be involved in a study by psychiatrists Peter B. Neubauer and Viola W. Bernard, under the auspices of the Jewish Board of Guardians. The experiment involved the separation of the boys at 6 months old, and then periodic visits and evaluations. The adoptive parents were not informed about this at the time, and just assumed it to be normal procedure. This will later be known as the Neubauer Twin Study, which we'll get into a little bit more detail later. Fast forward to 1980, a 19-year-old Bobby Sharon attends his first day at university at Sullivan County Community College. To his surprise, like a celebrity, the girls are giving him kisses, the guys are tapping him on the back and giving him high fives, and weirdest of all, they were greeting him as Eddie, until finally one student by the name of Michael Domnitz asked him, "Are you adopted?" When Bobby confirmed that he was, Michael said, "You have a twin." Domnitz was a friend of one of the other twins, Edward Galland, who dropped out of college the previous year and knew Galland was also adopted. Later that day, Bobby and Michael drove to Edward's adoptive parents' house in Long Island, where Bobby found himself staring at someone with the same DNA. Bobby went on record saying, "It's as if the world just faded away and it was just me and Eddie." Eventually, Bobby and Eddie were contacted by David Kellman, whose adoptive mother saw the twins in a local newspaper, who looked exactly like her son, down to their pudgy hands. What? It turns out the triplets lived in a 100-mile radius of each other in the greater New York City metro area. Now, once the story got out to the media, these guys went viral. They appeared on virtually every TV and radio station you could think of, from the Phil Donahue Show, the Today Show with Tom Brokaw, and even a cameo in Madonna's first major movie, Desperately Seeking Susan. As they made the rounds, the audiences lapped up the brothers' likeness. They finished each other's sentences, smoked the same cigarettes, and were even into the same type of women. So in the following years, the boys made good on this newfound fame, opening a steakhouse in Soho, New York, called the Triplets. So why did the Neubauer study that affected so many children's lives even begin in the first place? I mean, now we know it's better to keep children together when being adopted, but in the 1950s, the opposite was thought to be true. What? While it might raise alarm bells, it was actually legal at the time. What? What was illegal was giving that information about an adoptee's biological family to the adoptive family. Essentially, all adoptions were closed adoptions. Dr. Neubauer took advantage of this opportunity by opening the Child Development Center, working with Louise Wise Adoption Services and tracking babies that have been adopted by separate families, part of a wide-scale nature versus nurture study. This was to see how much of their development was down to nature and how much of their development was down to nurture. Unfortunately, most of the study remains sealed at Yale University, where Neubauer left his research after his death in 2008. He had the material sealed until 2065, where most of his subjects will most likely be deceased. 10,000 pages were released to Bobby and David. However, much of the material was redacted, leaving the siblings with as little as information as they started with. Sharon told LA Times, "The data was collected, the results were never published, and we're getting to a point where we're pretty sure that nothing was ever done with it. And then what was the whole point of this, right? All this observation, collecting all of this data, and no conclusion." One thing the triplets did discover in their research is that they all suffer from amblyopia, a condition in which the brain and the eye are out of sync, resulting in what's called lazy eye. But only David Kellman was treated, which left the other brothers a bit annoyed. So what do you think of the Neubauer study? Do you think it's something that should have never happened in the first place? Or do you think these types of experiments are important for science? Leave your comments below and don't forget, follow and subscribe. I'm Shak from Factertainment. Stay safe out there.